But I think there are a lot of reasons to suggest that this is going to be something that might be a little bit more complicated than some people are saying. You know, we hear from the Fed right now that there could be a soft landing, but then we're watching the Fed with their monetary policies all over the board right now. So I have a hard time really trusting in what they have to say.
Yeah, we try not to do only market data because I think that if they're in the mode to buy or sell, they care. But what about those 7 years in between? On average, people move. Well, I think it's even 5 years now. But still, how do I stay relevant in their life for the next 5 years before they buy or sell, so that they reach out to me when it's time? And so for us, it's on our consumer stuff, it's very localized. Here, yes, there maybe it's a little bit of real estate.
All right, LabCoatAgents. I'm Shawn Kerley here with none other than Brian Stevens with the National Real Estate Post. Like I always say every month, if you do not get his daily show, go to the App Store, download NREP, so you can see Brian and his amazing 5-minute daily videos that I basically just rip off and duplicate here with this man, none other, every month. So, Brian, we're going to jump right in. You were talking about we all know everything's pointing towards a recession, either the end of this year into spring or mid next year. All the indicators point that this thing's coming. And you were talking about that, yeah, this storm is coming, but it could be much bigger than what we are expecting. So if you could kind of elaborate on why you're thinking that this thing's a huge hurricane and not just a little tropical storm.
Yeah, Jamie Dimon was the one who came up with the term. He said this is not going to be a storm on the horizon, it's a hurricane on the horizon. Interestingly, I read a book by Sheila Bair, and she was the Fed Reserve chief at one point during the last recession, and she wrote a book called Bull by the Horns. And I got to tell you, if you want to know about the 2008 recession, go read that book. But she was talking retrospectively about everybody who was in the room, the head CEOs of Goldman Sachs, of Merrill, Bank of America, Chase, Citi, you name the head of the Treasury, Hank Paulson, Ben Bernanke, like everybody was there. And she said something interesting. She said, Jamie Dimon was always the one who ran the room. Of all the CEOs, Jamie Dimon was the one. So when Jamie Dimon he speaks up, I always kind of listen because I thought really highly of Sheila Bair. But I think there are a lot of reasons to suggest that this is going to be something that might be a little bit more complicated than some people are saying. We hear from the Fed right now that there could be a soft landing, but then we're watching the Fed with their monetary policies all over the board right now. So I have a hard time really trusting in what they have to say. A couple of points that really concern me about this is point one is the United States household gained about $2.5 trillion in excess savings since March of 2020. And this is only from stimulus and higher wages. Now, we both know about $2 trillion of that was from stimulus, but this is just additional money that has been put into the United States economy that has kind of really helped inflation grow at its rapid and unforeseen pace in the past. When we have more money to spend and we have supply line issues, and so we have fewer goods for all of these consumer dollars, that's going to make the price of all those goods go up. The second point is the extra cash, as I just told you, has helped keep consumer spending strong, which in turn has driven the higher prices that we're talking about. Here's the thing. Point three is inflation is gnawed away at all of the savings that we've had. And right now we are starting to see some of the spending habits that we've had in the past go down. According to the PayPal CEO, his name is Dan Schulman, and he just said this at Davos a couple of days ago. He said, we're already seeing a reduction in spending at lower income levels for sure. And it's moving up to middle income class. It's moving up to the middle income classes right now. So what's happening is we are starting to see a very rapid and significant reduction in spending as we start to move through the stimulus money that we got in 2020, as that starts to push through, and the smaller wage hikes that we've seen over the past couple of years is being eaten right now from the massive inflation that we're dealing with. So the less we spend, the closer we're going to get to this inevitable recession. The question then becomes, is how deep and how difficult is this recession going to be? And as we spoke about before, just a couple of moments ago, when we start to look at how we are dealing with international policy, we're doing things in a way right now that are very, very demonstrative. So, for example, as I wrote in one of my shows, in the past, when we've used sanctions on countries, the idea behind a sanction is to compel a country into a certain action, right? So we want somebody like, I don't know, maybe don't invade another company, Russia, or maybe China. We want you to have a better record on human rights violations that you've had in the past. Which, by the way, I don't know if you saw this. It was 33 years ago this last week when Tiananmen Square happened. That's definitely dating me because it seems like yesterday. So we put sanctions on China. But what it seems like we're doing right now is we're using sanctions as a proxy for war. Well, because we can't go to war with Russia, what do? We have sanctions that are intended to be harmful, not just punitive, but actually harmful. Mm-hmm. We've seen the European Union jumping in doing the same type of thing. We're now doing this with China. Again, we can't go to war with China because they have a whole bunch of nukes. But what we can do is we can have sanctions that go beyond punitive actions. What does this mean? Well, it means that by extension, when we look at like the food supply chains that we have right now, so all the grain, the second largest grain producer in the world is the Ukraine, and we can't get any of that grain out of the Ukraine. And even if we could, what could we do with it? Now, Russia is an export, and they're still exporting oil. But what we've done is we've sanctioned their ability to ship anywhere because we will not offer or afford them any insurance on any of their shipping, so they can't get any of their goods out. So that freezes everything up over there. So what happens then? Well, then you see as the dominoes start to fall, you see a country like, and most people don't know this, you see a country like India who says, well, we're not going to have any grain exports anymore. We can't afford to do that because we now know that there's going to be a shortage of grain because of what's going on in the Ukraine and what's going on in the United States. So we're going to hold on to all of our grain. So now all of a sudden, we have one of the two major staples that the entire world eats has all but frozen up, and the cost of grain has actually tripled. The same thing, coincidentally, we don't need to go down this road, has actually happened to rice, the other major staple that people eat. So now what's taken place is grain is frozen as we sit here and speak. Mm-hmm. Rice is frozen as we sit here and speak. And so now you look at a lot of third world countries out there. Sri Lanka is really the canary in the coal mine on this one, guys. What's been going on in Sri Lanka, if you haven't followed it, is something that we need to all be aware of. And I'm going to circle around on this. So Sri Lanka, which is a poor country, which has like a $14 billion economy, they have to decide, do they pay interest on their debt or do they feed their population? Because right now they feed their population with rice and grain. That's what they import. But now the cost of that rice and grain, we're not even talking about fuel, but the cost of that rice and grain has tripled. So all of the, excuse my language, the pissing match between first world countries is having a domino effect. It's found its way all the way down to a country like Sri Lanka, which is off the southern coast of India. And it's now a failed nation. It's a failed state. The government has completely failed because they've defaulted on their debt. So now they're going and looking at the International Monetary Fund saying, we need a $3 to $5 billion bailout just so we can keep our citizens, our population from starving to death. Well, you see how the domino, we start up here. And now all of a sudden, of course, the ones who suffer the most are going to be the poorest of the people in the world. Well, now here's the problem. We need to ask ourselves, how many other third world countries like Sri Lanka are out there right now saying, do I pay my interest on my debt? Or do I pay the extended prices on grain and rice right now to keep my population from starving to death? When you default, you have a failed government. Well, there's no less than 15 other countries right now that are on the brink of failing and frankly probably are going to fail. That means the international monetary finance funds that we have right now are going to go have to bail out all these other 15 countries. That money is coming out of the coffers of the United States and the European Union. We've already put 40% more dollars into the economy in the last year and a half than we have since since the inception of our country. And all of that money has also added to the inflation on top of everything that we're talking about right now. Well, how many more dollars are we going to have to print up in order to fund the IMF, in order to pay for these defunct third world countries who are suffering the consequences of our international policies that we have right now? So I hope I'm painting this in a way that you guys can understand, because everything then becomes connected. So when we talk about our supply shortages that we have right now, two, the fact that we've burned through our stimulus money and it costs more money for us to purchase everything. So that's going to slow our economy down. And then three, we're going to be forced into a situation where we have to dilute every dollar that we have in our pocket right now even more in order to pay for the consequences of our international policies. When you put all of this together, yeah, it starts to not look like a storm on the horizon, but a hurricane on the horizon. Yeah. The thing is that we've never been down this road before. We've never used sanctions as a proxy for war. We put 40% more dollars into circulation in the past year and a half than we ever have in the history of this country. It's really quite remarkable. So we're going down a road right now where we don't know how deep the hole goes. And I mean, for me, it's a little frightening to kind of think about, but it's also, strangely, being an anarchist at heart, it's going to be interesting to see how this whole thing plays out.
Yeah, and basically just wrapping that up is that it's just not a recession here in the United States. It's a world recession. It's going to.
Oh, my goodness. Right. I don't know if right now, if you look at the central bank of Russia, what is our Fed fund rate at right now? 4 or 5, somewhere in there. Mm-hmm. In Russia, it's at 26. China's recession is twice as deep as ours is right now as we sit here today. We're looking at it in terms of, the pain that we're feeling. In fact, the United States just allowed for oil exports to go over to Europe to offset what they're not getting from Russia because of the punitive nature of the sanctions that they have against Russia right now. Yeah. So the European Union, they're all in a recession right now. China's in a deeper recession than we are. Japan, which has to import absolutely everything, is in a deeper recession than we are. India's not exporting grain. Sri Lanka's in the tubes right now. I mean, it really becomes, when you start looking at this, the question becomes, when do we start to fix what is already broken? My thinking is, and I'm going to stop my diatribe here, is, Shawn, this is, to me, kind of a let's just rip the scab off type of moment and start to get to the recovery, because it might take 6 months until we actually get into our recession, but it's not until we get into the recession that everybody knows is coming before we can start to come out of the recession. Yeah. So we'll see.
Well, thanks for putting the positive tone on the start of this conversation. I guess that's my fault for asking the question that I started with. So my apologies, everybody. Now let's talk about some good news. Sure. March 2022 compared to March 2021, home prices appreciation on average is 20.6%. Nuts. Absolutely. I mean, I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've always said, if you're getting 3 to 5%, you're doing really, really well. Yeah. 20.6%. The average person that has a mortgage on their house has at least $185,000 of equity in their house. And these are huge, huge numbers. Now, we all know that the house prices goes up, and unfortunately, it's pricing a lot of people out. But one thing I want to roll into is that the Fed economic data. So what this is the St. Louis Federal Reserve. They look at all kinds of different things, but they also publish listings in February 2022 was down to 850,000, somewhere right around there, lowest ever on record. Now, we know that listings are cyclical. So we're coming out of the winter months into the spring. Now we're back up over 1 million. I do believe some people say that 4 million is an average, where we need 3 to 4 million houses on it. But with all of these people getting so much equity because the housing prices went up so much, with interest rates going up and then now listings going up, what happens, do you think, which we've talked about in the past, but this is kind of like all the cards getting flipped over right now. So what do you think happens in the next coming months? We don't see the 20.6% positive appreciation, I don't think.
No. And by the way, we did start off with a little bit of doom and gloom here. But the one positive thing about our economy is the housing market. When we look at the strength of our economy right now, it's our industry. back in 2008, during our last really deep recession that we had, the housing market was the cause of it.
Mhm.
In this market, the housing market is the solution. It's the one bright spot. And it really is. Now, all right, are prices going to stabilize? Certainly. Could they even drop a little bit? Maybe. Well, nobody knows. Maybe they could. But if the average person is sitting on over $185,000 in equity, which is, by the way, we should write songs about this and sing them around campfires. It's so ridiculously positive for people who own homes right now. So even if it did drop down a little bit, it wouldn't be that big of a deal. The thing is it's all people need to understand it's all right now about supply. It doesn't matter if rates are going up, doesn't matter if they're going down. If we don't have more inventory, home values are going to stabilize. They maybe they slow down, maybe they stop, maybe they dip a little bit. Now everybody's freaked out about interest rates. Well, interest rates, they're having a drag on housing. You bet. Yes, they are. Okay. Mm-hmm. So you have interest rates that go up. So prices start to go down a little bit, or we don't appreciate at the same level. So people see that as bad. All right. Well, that means that it's going to be even more difficult for people to purchase because prices are still going up a little bit, but rates are going up. Now let's just look at the other option on the table. Let's say we go back to 3% interest rates. Wow, now my purchasing power has gone up as a buyer. That's great. You're right. But then home prices, the appreciation starts to tip up again. You need to look at it in terms of what your payment is going to be. It's really right now about payment and your ability to afford that payment. And, I was just having a conversation, in fact, on our show today, the National Real Estate Post, about this. And, when you buy a house right now, when you're thinking about interest rates, you're looking at your house for life. You're not looking at your loan for life. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you need to think about the payment more than anything. You're looking for your house for life. You're not looking for your loan for life. And I say this because as we sit here today, we know that we're going into this recession. When the recession comes, the Fed's going to start purchasing mortgage-backed securities again. They're going to drop the rates again, and rates are going to come down. So the loan that you're going to be in if you bought a house today is not going to be the loan that you're going to be in 4 or 5 years from now. So again, side note on this one, don't want to get too far in the weeds. As a consumer, as a real estate agent, make sure that you're having a conversation with your lender about 3, 5, 7, and 10-year ARMs. So we can bring that payment down right now and start to have these type of reasonable conversations with your clients when it comes to, interest rates versus home appreciation. Well, how home prices aren't going up as much. Well, yeah, that's probably because of interest rates, because we have limited the purchasing power. But again, if rates go down, then the price of homes is going to start to escalate at a higher clip than it is right now. And this is going to happen. This is an inevitability because we don't have the inventory. Everything right now is being determined by the inventory. Now, on a side note here, and I haven't researched this one enough, but it will be on the National Real Estate Post this upcoming week. I think it was the Minnesota Fed. I have the article right now that I'm going through, and I'm looking at the Fed, what their statements are. But there's a big push right now from one of the Fed Reserve locations talking about monopolies by home builders and the National Association of Home Builders. So they came out with statements. It was either like last Friday or possibly even over the weekend, where they said what's happening with the National Association of Home Builders and with some of the larger home builders in the country. They're treating it more like a cartel or monopolies than what they're doing is they're price fixing. Just kind of like OPEC with oil. They fix the price on oil, right? Mm-hmm. So this is the accusation against U.S. home builders. And so there's a belief in there that perhaps the feds are going to go in there based on the Federal Reserve and start to change or make demands on home builders to change what they're building and how much they're building, which I think would be a good thing. Now, let's assume home prices come down just a little bit. All right, let's say you're the $185,000 in average equity. Let's say that home prices dip and you're down to $130,000. Cry me a river, right? Because your appreciation levels have been so out of whack, it's unbelievable. Yeah. The reason that would happen is because somebody had twisted the arm of home builders, like the Fed is trying to do right now, and created more entry-level homes and created more inventory, Would that be a bad thing if you're a real estate agent? Meaning you get to move more product. I mean, you as a real estate agent would then be in a position to move more product. You as a lender would then be in a position to move more product to lend out somebody else's money. So the fact is, from our professional standpoint, and frankly, from the health of us as a country, if we could increase our level of home ownership by twisting the arm of some of these builders, and it comes at the consequence of a little bit of that equity, we all think that that would be a good thing. But as it stands right here, yes, what we do is we have an inventory shortage, and it is not going to be interest rates. It's going to be inventory that determines what clip we are going to continue to appreciate. And if you look at every recession back to the 1920s, housing has always done great. That's the thing. We've always come through housing on the other side of any recession stronger than when we went into it, as strange as that sounds. So again, the last recession, we were the problem. Home prices tanked. We recovered from that one. The recession we're going into, we are the bright spot. And, I kind of think as an industry, we're kind of the gatekeepers of the wealth of this, of people in this country. That's how you have to see yourself as a real estate agent. We are the gatekeepers of the vast majority of wealth that we have as a country. And we shouldn't hold that responsibility lightly. When we go to work every day, we need to really kind of take that onus of responsibility to heart, because it is very important, and it's going to be more important as we go forward.
Yeah. And, you talked a little bit about rates going up. We're seeing that they're going to continue in most cases until this recession hits. But one positive, you were talking with David Stevens, super brilliant guy, been on all kinds of different boards, ran FHFA, I don't know. The guy has so many accolades, I can't remember them all. But he was talking about the new commissioner that's coming in, Miss Julia Gordon, and he's basically almost guaranteeing that she's going to lower MI factors. Doesn't know exactly how or where or when, but within the next probably 30 to 60 days, that MI for FHA products should be going down. Even if rates go up a little bit more, if they cut how much mortgage insurance is being charged on, let's just say they're 30 or 3.5% down, that will help out the affordability, especially for the folks that need it the most. And, I know that people in Orange County and stuff, that you never even talk about FHA, but here in Little Missouri, we do a lot of FHA product for a lot of folks. And this is going to definitely help a lot of people if we can see a cut in any charges that is being charged right now.
Yeah, and Dave Stevens is the past president of the FHA. Okay. This is what's funny about it. He was the one who raised it.
Yeah.
So he's responsible for the higher rates that we have right now. And he's been the biggest proponent of lowering it. He raised it at a time when the Mutual Mortgage Insurance Fund of FHA had dropped significantly below the congressional mandate of 2% of their entire portfolio that they had to hold on to. In fact, I think at one point it went into a negative. So he raised our MI on FHA deals so we could increase the mutual mortgage insurance fund from FHA. It's supposed to be at 2%. We're now sitting at like 8%. It's something ridiculous. So he's saying we need to drop it. We need to drop it. So he came out and said, oh, by the way, Brian, your MI is going to go down on your FHA deals. If there's anybody who's qualified to say that outside of the president of the FHA, it's the past president of the FHA who raised it in the first place. So we could basically take that one as a stone cold lock that that's going to happen. Now, the impact on your client's payments is going to be marginal. It's not going to be big, but it's certainly going in the right and responsible direction. And what it really tells me is that our new president of the FHA is really kind of going to be in step with what's happening on the ground. And that's important because we don't really see that from our government-sponsored enterprises, Fannie and Freddie, right now, as much as we should. And frankly, I don't think we see it from Marcia Fudge, who runs HUD. Mm-hmm. So this is a good sign. This is a good indicator for the health of the FHA as we're going forward. The other part of it is the ones who are lobbying against dropping our mortgage insurance on our FHA deals are all of those providers of mortgage insurance for your agency or conforming loans, your 30-year fixed rate loans and all that. They have lobbyists saying you shouldn't drop it. You shouldn't, don't you drop that. It's a bad idea to drop it.
Yeah.
Well, here's the reason why. is because what's going to happen is on your conforming deals, your Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac deals, your agency 30-year fixed rate meat and potato deals, they're going to have to follow suit and drop their mortgage insurance premiums as well, because they're vying for business. And if FHA becomes a more affordable option than a conventional loan, then people are going to do more FHA deals. And that's going to hurt the bottom line of these for-profit mortgage insurance companies. So FHA dropping its MI is not only going to help all of those who are participating with FHA deals, it's going to help everybody who's purchasing a house with less than 20% down. And that's a good thing.
Yeah. I like how we hit them in the mouth in the beginning, and now we're starting to rub their back a little bit. So getting a little bit better news as we wrap up. So, of course, almost every other show, we got to talk about our favorite company, Zillow. Zillow runs they just rolled out their Flex program in 2 counties, I think Denver and somewhere else. But they are basically going to go to a referral-based pay model where the agent doesn't have to pay a monthly gouge to be number 1, number 2, number 3 in their zip code, but they have to pay 25, 35% of their commission whenever they close the deal. Oh, and you pointed out that Zillow gets to pick what agents that they're going to work with because of some of their findings. So go ahead and explain that.
Yeah. So Zillow, once they got out of their home flipping, competing with you, real estate brokerage business, they lost something to I'm very close on my numbers, but I could be off. They lost like 72% of their revenue. So if they lost 72%, they're dealing with, 28% of the revenue they had a couple of years ago. For a publicly traded company, this is a bloodletting on a level that should dunk anybody permanently underwater. So understand, Zillow's going into this thing with 28% of the revenue they had a couple of years ago. This is bad. And the area where they're getting their money, almost all of the revenue is coming from their premier agent. They make $1 billion a year on you guys, which, by the way, I just want to point this out. Every house that sold in the past 10 years would have still sold without Zillow. The only thing you did is give them billions of dollars in your commissions in the process, but I digress. So what they're doing is they're saying, so if they got 28% of what they had a couple of years ago, and they're saying, we think our best thing is to get rid of that 28% as well, because they think they can make twice as much money by firing premier agents. Why do I say that? Well, because what's happening is what they've learned from their analytics is that you can pay them even thousands of dollars per month, but you're not closing the deals. You're not picking up your phone. You're not doing the things that you need to do as a real estate agent in order to make that $2,000 monthly investment with Zillow worth it. How do they know that? Well, because there are a handful of agents out there who are actually killing it. How do they know that? Because they know from the reviews that they're getting from these real estate agents and their clients on Zillow. I give you John Doe. You close John Doe. John Doe goes over and gives you a positive review on Zillow. Zillow connects those dots. Hey, guess what? You know what's going on here? Shawn is closing deals. Why isn't everybody else closing deals, but Shawn is? Well, here's what Zillow figured out. Because Shawn's picking up his phone. So Zillow said, what would be a better thing for me to do is just quit charging Shawn that upfront fee. I want a piece of what Shawn makes on all these deals. I want basically what would be a referral fee that you would get, a standardized referral fee in real estate, which is going to be 25 to 35%. It's going to be somewhere in there. Zillow is hedging that getting rid of everybody else and only working with Shawn, who actually closes deals, is going to make more money than taking money off the top from a whole bunch of agents. So what they've done in 2 markets right now is they said, okay, we're getting rid of all of our premier agents. Thanks for all the thousands for all the years, kids, but you're all fired. And I'm only going to work with Shawn and people like Shawn. And oh, by the way, you're not welcome to be on this list. You're done. It doesn't matter. You're done. We know exactly who we want to work with. And so they've done this in 2 markets right now. And now what they did say is, they said, if you want to eventually in other markets ensure that you're going to be one of the agents who can go ahead and play in our sandbox, or if we make a list available in going forward in the future, there are 4 criteria that you have to do. The first one is when you get a lead, you actually have to pick up the phone when they call. This is literally what they said. So what that tells me is they have a long, rich history of real estate agents not picking up their phone. Go figure. And listen, I'm just telling you what Zillow says. So don't shoot the messenger on this one. But there are 2 types of agents who are watching this right now. one who are appalled at what I'm saying because maybe it hits too close to home, and the vast majority of agents who are watching this right now who are saying, yeah, we as an industry need to be better with customer service. You know that because you're better with customer service. So number one is pick up the phone. Then number two is convert that into an in-face meeting. The third one is close the deal. And the fourth one is get a positive review. All right, so what's Zillow saying? If I give you a lead, pick up the phone when they call, meet that person in face, close that deal, make that client happy, and prove it to me. And if you do that, I'm not going to charge you any money anymore. Now, guys, if everybody doesn't have, if everybody is not taking their marketing and their opportunities and their leads with those 4 points in mind, then you're not a professional real estate agent. We could be a part-time agent. We could be we're having fun as an agent, but the agents out there who are running teams across the country right now, the agents out there who have a business that is impervious to bad markets are the ones who pick up their phone, have in-face meetings, close those deals, and make damn sure that their clients are happy. That's a professional agent. And think about yourself. What agent would you want to work with? That's the profile of the person that I want to work with. So that should be the profile or the aspirations of every real estate agent in this country. Frankly, of all the butt kicking that I like to do with Zillow, I understand why they said this. And I think that this is a great mark or a benchmark for every real estate agent to go towards. My last point on this is we all pay for coaching. We all pay for help with our marketing. We all pay for all of these different things. We pay for motivational speakers. We go to conferences and listen to all these people and we read sales books and all this stuff. None of that matters. None of it matters. None of it. If you pick up your phone, turn that into an in-face meeting, close the deal, and make them happy, that's all you need to do. We could really distill this down. We could put this in a vacuum, a concentrated form of what a real estate agent should do. And frankly, that's it. That's kind of my thoughts. Do you have any disagreements?
Yeah, that's just sales 101, even for mortgage folks, for people selling cell phones to cars to whatever. Just do a damn good job. And if you're not picking up whenever, especially if somebody's vying for information, if you're not picking up the phone, that's just a huge turnoff. Which I know that I have plenty of real estate friends that get pissed off at the listing agents whenever they're trying to get information for their buyer and can't even get a phone call or text back or whatever. So I understand where they're coming from, but again, it's not just agents; it's everybody that's selling a widget. We always have good ones and we always have bad ones. And if you want to be a good one, just do the 101 crap. And that's the 4 things that you said.
You know what? I'll tell you what, you know who the good salespeople are? The people who are trying to get me to extend my car warranty.
Yes.
Who are these people? Who are these people? Where are they at? Where are these angels of marketing at?
Yeah.
And the other one, I'll tell you what, the other one is, it is interesting, is car salespeople.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought my, I bought my truck 6 years ago. I get a phone call every 3 months. Hey, Brian, how you doing? How you liking that GMC? It's great. Hey, listen, if you bring it down right now, we got a great deal for you. I'm like, you don't even have any cars in your lot right now. But I still get that call from those salespeople. They do a great job of that. And then I bought my wife an Acura a year ago. And I've already gotten 4 or 5 phone calls from them, follow-up calls. And it is because it becomes a discipline, with these, because they're working on smaller margins. They need to close more units, especially right now. So it becomes a discipline that is required of them. And you do see that from, I think, the car industry. If a real estate agent ran their business I swear to God, this sounds horrible, but if a real estate agent ran their business like a car salesperson or a used car salesperson and put that discipline into place, your business would look remarkably different next year. And I don't care if we have less or more inventory.
Yeah, that's just called past, database follow-up and touches. That's nothing new. Everyone talks about it. Talk to your people 4 times a year at minimum. Make your calls, call your A's. One day your B's, your C's, whatever.
Yep.
But yeah, no, and my Acura dealership did the same thing, and they always wanted me to trade in, and guess what? Get another one.
Yep.
So,
they'll get me eventually.
Yeah. But all right, man. Well, that's what I got for this month. We are over time, and we'll see what the month of June brings us for next month.
Well, it's great to see you, and I look forward to talking to you guys again.
We'll see you later.